Okay, everyone. Okay. Okay. We're back. We're back. Thank you so much. How about them cookies? Aren't they amazing? Aren't they fun? Did you get the symbol that you teach? She got Allworth. Were you in Allworth? Maybe. You get the centerpiece, yeah. Okay, we appreciate you all staying for this segment. This is a very important topic for me. It's some information I recently learned in the past 2 years. It has changed my life. And so I sincerely hope that you find it to be equally as beneficial to you. Ann Harrington, oh my gosh, she has been a student of this information for years. 20 years, 16 years, you've been a student of it, and she does a beautiful job of explaining needs, feelings, and integrating the two so that you can have a peaceful conversation and develop connection instead of disconnection with each other. So I have a question. Well, how many of you have been ticked off recently at someone? Okay, yeah, we all have, right? Okay, so there's this element of tick-off that you'll learn about how to identify your need in the tick-off moment and then be able to communicate it. And it's amazing. I hope you enjoy hearing this presentation, and I'll be popping in every so often. I have cues to come up and do a few things with Ann. So Ann Harrington, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Patty. I am thrilled to be invited to be here today. This is my passion. I wish I had found it earlier in my life, but we find things when we find things, and this has been a life changer for me too, and I am thrilled to share it with you as it was shared with me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Welcome you all today here for life-changing information on a beautiful day. And I just loved what was said by the NRI staff about integrating and empathy, and how that quality of connection, which we talk a lot about in this work, what is the quality of connection between people? And a lot of that is based on empathy and paying attention, not only to the other person and what they're saying, but also to yourself. So we're going to be talking about that today. We are calling this nonviolent, compassionate communication. You could also call it mindful, authentic communication. It was invented by a man in Detroit, Marshall Rosenberg. And I'm going to be moving pretty quickly today to cover this information and give you a taste of the big rocks, or the big pieces, as Covey would say. So I know I'm moving faster than is ideal, so I appreciate you bearing with us on that. You all should have your folders, which we will be referring to today, your folder of handouts. On the left side are colored sheets of feelings, values, or needs. And as Patty said, having needs does not make us needy. It makes us human. And also a yellow sheet of body sensations. And a colorful tree, NVC tree of life, which we will be using as a main way to view the skills of NVC today. So I invite you to get out your folders, and at any time, if anybody has a question, just get your hand up. We could bring a mic back to you. All questions are welcome. So we know that conflict is a normal part of life. We're not going to get away from that. We also know how conflict can really drain our energy, drain the energy of a team, and create what we call in our culture these days the othering, or enemy images. So here's a picture of Marshall Rosenberg, and I really like this quote he has. "What I want in my life is compassion, a flow between myself and others based on mutual giving and receiving." But how do we do the mutual giving and receiving when somebody has just been rude or critical, or it's been an awkward conversation? So NVC is the mixing and matching of these two things. And as Patty and I have done NVC work together over the last couple years, these two things we have chosen today to mention almost as bookends. I'm hoping you'll remember these two things and other things we talk about today, but number one, what is your intention? When you open your mouth, either to speak or to listen, is your intention to connect or to correct? That's a big one. And the second one is when somebody's critical or rude or dismissive or defensive, Rosenberg would say that behavior is a tragic expression of the speaker's unmet needs. We're back to empathy. Do we recognize when somebody's having trouble expressing themselves and the only skill they have is a put down or an insult or a rude thing? At least that's how we hear it. This is a quote from Oprah. All arguments are basically about these things, which really fits with empathy too. Did you hear me? Did you see me? And does anything I say really matter to you? That's really what arguments are about. But we don't have the language for that because we haven't been taught that. These were the questions I was asking myself. This is a very brief story about me at our cabin when my husband and I got a new dock. As we've gotten older, we realized we needed a dock on wheels that would roll. So we were putting it in for the first time. And I said, please wait for me. I'll make lunch, and then I want to come down and see how we do this. I want to be part of it. And he said, okay, great. I thought we had an agreement. I trusted that. So I came out with the lunch, and he ran up the hill and said, well, that was a piece of cake. That is the kind of dock we want. That was easy. And I said, what are you talking about? You mean you already put it in? He had already got the whole thing done. He had completely disregarded. I had a whole message made up, and I was furious. Now, it seems like small potatoes. It does seem like a small thing, but in that moment, I was ticked. And I didn't feel like I'd been heard at all, that my request mattered at all, just like what we were saying about the Oprah request. So I said, well, I'm so mad, I'm going to say something. Thank goodness I knew NVC already by then. And I didn't blast him into the ground, because then I would have had to clean that up later. So I just said, I'm so mad now, I'm going to have to get out of here and take a walk. See you later, bud. So I went off and stomped around and did some empathy for myself on that walk. Anyway, we'll talk more about self-empathy. But it's a wonderful skill to have. So our goal is to listen well to ourselves, listen well to others, and then speak our own truth with kindness and presence and self-awareness. And here is my favorite drawing, which you have in your folders too, the NVC Tree of Life. I love this because my brain needs a big picture. I need to see the big picture first and then plug in the specifics. And I don't know what your learning style is, but I'm afraid you're stuck with mine today. This NVC Tree of Life has 3 main learning areas on it. You can see that self-empathy or self-connection makes the root of the tree. This is the key where we're going to start today. Always start at the root, listening to yourself. And then the other arms you can see are self-expression, speaking your truth when you have something to say, using this model, if you so choose, and then listening to the other person, empathy. And empathy can be done either non-verbally or verbally. We'll be talking about that today too. It is fun to hear how people get into things. As one of our questioners here asked the NRI staff, how did you know what you wanted to do? So today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got into NVC briefly, and I invite you to try the model on. NVC is really nothing new. I bet you've heard pieces of this. By the time we leave today, you're going to think, well, I'm guessing you will think to yourself, oh, I heard parts of that before, but I guess I'd never put it all together in this way before. That's how I felt when I first heard about it, because I was a speech pathology and audiology major in college. And then I got a master's in speech path and audiology and worked at Miller Dwan and in the peds section and the adult section. And I loved that career. And then I realized that I was gradually becoming more interested in NVC and communication and empathy and how people connect to solve problems. I also could really see, given my family of origin, I'm not blaming them, I'm just realizing I learned certain habits growing up in my family. And I learned to be nice. And I was really nice, and really nice, and really nice, until I was so frustrated because my needs weren't being met. So then I became too nasty. I started out being too nice, and then I'd get sick of that, and I'd swing over here like a pendulum and get too nasty. Then I wasn't pleased with myself, not very proud of myself, being too nasty. That's not really me. And then I'd swing back over here, and I ended up in the too nice. I just did not know how to end up in the middle and ground myself. NVC is a way to ground yourself at the root of the tree and then choose which other skills you would like. And I'm very excited to say the other way I got into NVC, actually, hearing about some of these books that have been written by Marshall Rosenberg was through our older daughter, Annalisa, who got out of college, got her first job in Chicago at the Conflict Resolution Center, also known as CRC, and she brought this book home at Christmas, required reading for employees. Well, she flew back to Chicago or drove back, whatever, and left the book on the dining room table. I thought, I kind of want to know what my kid is into. So I read the book, and I was just taken by it. It really met a need for me as a 50-something mother of our oldest daughter. Well, she called and said, Mom, I have to have that book read. Can you get it sent here? And I said, I'm almost done. I stayed up till 3 in the morning reading that puppy, got her done, sent it back to her, and it truly has changed my life. And it always thrills me when I hear Patty say what a difference it's made to her as she has tried it on. So that's what we're really doing today is I'm inviting you to try it on and see which parts fit for you. So now I'm involved, I created my own little company here, and this is what I do. This is what I want to be doing with my time, sharing this model. And here's the best picture of a pendulum swing. I spent years in the pendulum swing, feeling exhausted because I could not find my balance. So we know what to do, but how do we do it under pressure? When we are angry or somebody's mad at us. NVC was founded to help us stay human under pressure. People always say to me, what in the world is NVC really? I hear you use those 3 letters a lot. What is it? So I just put this here. It's a way of giving and receiving mutual respect using a language skill. And today we're going to show you what that language skill is to the best of our ability in 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay? And the way we do that is to focus on our feelings, our needs or values, and our bodies. Our bodies give us a lot of clues if we're listening. So we want feelings and needs and body sensations. And we want to focus on those versus a lot of thoughts up here about these things. It's a way to reframe and sort, and I use these words, decode and translate and even lead. I don't want to be the person who makes it worse, who does a tit for tat and socks it to somebody because they deserved it. That, I don't think, is really leadership. There is another way to do it. And I have certainly been in that position before, and that's part of that pendulum swing. I did not respect myself when that happened, and I'm gradually finding another way to lead under pressure. So on page 1 in your folders, if you bear with me here, I'd like you to quickly jot down and share, just for about 5 minutes, share what bugs you. What are frustrating communication patterns that you do yourself or that you just can't stand when other people do. This is part of the initial self-awareness. And you can move and sit by somebody if you want to. The point is, we're getting in touch with our own habits. I'll set a timer and I'll ring the bell in 5 minutes. Okay, I'd like to call us back together. I'm sure we could always talk longer about frustrating communication patterns. That's what we're here to talk about today and unpack and connect to our own self-awareness. I want to say a few more things about Dr. Marshall Rosenberg because this is an example of a leadership in a man who grew up in Detroit, who was badly bullied. He was Jewish, and he had a hard time of it. And he did something leaderly with all of that frustration. And I'm just so proud of him and the work that he has created. It reminds me of NRRI and some of these inventions that come out of there and how they percolate. And eventually, what is invented at NRI could end up all over the world, like NVC is internationally. It's an international model. We don't know how the creativity from connection can really make a huge difference. Rosenberg wanted to find a way to help people change and heal rather than using drugs and diagnoses. And a lot of people said to him, I don't need NVC, I'm not violent. Rosenberg said he called this approach nonviolent communication using the term nonviolence as Gandhi used it to refer to our internal natural state of compassion coming from the heart. We don't think we're violent, but we put our words together in ways that are heard as violent by other people, that cause major disconnection. And I realize I have a lot on these slides, but the nugget is, what kind of language can we use that allows natural compassion to flow from us to the other person, and that allows empathy to grow and resonate? NVC shows us a way of being very authentic, very honest, but without any criticism, without insults, put-downs, intellectual diagnosis, any of these things that imply the wrongness of the other person. And why do we think we have to do that? I realized in myself, I did it. I criticized people because I wanted to motivate them to change. But that doesn't really inspire people to want to change often. It inspires defensiveness and resentment sometimes also. So we're looking at the whole big thing. And I like this picture of Marshall. He died in 2007 of cancer, but his work is all over the world, and I'm so grateful for him. So if you've ever been in an awkward situation, I have. I knew I wanted to say something, but I thought to myself, I can't say that. What am I going to do? I can't say that. What will they think of me, or how will they take that? Oh my, I just didn't have the skill until I started learning NVC, and I still struggle with that skill. But it does take courage to go first and lead in a situation toward empathy and connection. So I'd like to read the Cookie Thief poem to you, and then after that, I'd like to ask you, why would I bother reading that to you? And then Patty's going to share a story with us too. So I'll read you the whole poem, and then maybe you've already heard it, but it really fits this work we're doing. A woman was waiting in an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shops, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I'd blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. When only one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half, and he ate the other. She snatched it from him and thought, "Oh, brother, this guy has some nerve, and he's also quite rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude." She had never known when she had been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at that thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat. Then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached in her baggage, she gasped with surprise, for there was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. "If mine are here," she moaned in despair, "the others were his, and he tried to share." Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. It's just a little poem. But why would I bother to read that to you today? What does it have to do with? Anybody have an idea? Yep, perceptions and assumptions. And it's really huge when it comes to communication. Patty.
Hi, I love that. Assumptions are the termites of relationships. Oh, do I have a doozy for you? Okay, so anyway, I brought this yellow towel. It's kind of, it's old. It probably was put on a card table at one time. It was my mother-in-law's. And, you know, we're cleaning out her house, and there's a pile of rags, and in the rag bag is this yellow towel. And rags are usually very dull. They look shabby. And here's this yellow towel. So when I pulled it out, I said, "Oh my, where did you come from?" I was thrilled to find this yellow towel. Now, that sounds a little strange, but in this moment, this towel made me happy. It was a little bright spot of joy. I love yellow. I love flowers. I love fruit, and that was the design on this towel, and it was my mother-in-law's. So that was really special. So as we were taking stuff out of the house, the yellow towel disappeared. And I thought, I have a feeling someone in my house threw my towel away because he likes to throw things away. So there I was, ticked. Ugh. He threw my yellow towel away. And then I caught myself, because now I know something about NVC, and I thought, okay, Patty, what did the yellow towel give me? What did it honor, my need in the moment? It brought me joy. It brought me sentimental, my mother-in-law's. And so I had to tell myself, okay, so if he threw the towel away, I had a moment of joy and a moment of connection. Well, lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, here's the yellow towel. He did not throw it away. Thank you, George. But it was that moment where I took that time to think, what the heck does this mean? Why am I ticked? What were the feelings associated with this crazy yellow towel? They can bury me with this towel now. But it just goes to show you, in those moments, if we stop and think, it's priceless. Because in the olden days, before NVC, I would have been marching in the house, "What did you do with my towel?" And I didn't do that. And that I was so proud of myself that I didn't go there, because that would not have been fair to George, nor would it have enhanced our relationship. So I think you all need a yellow towel. What do you think? I can give you little pieces of my towel if you'd like. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Patty. We didn't get that into your folders, the little piece of yellow towel.
Yeah.
But anyway, making the assumption about the intention of the other person and the whole tendency to blame is really a temptation. It's a habit. We all have. So again, one of my repetitious choices today and in my trainings is to repeat what is my intention. And like somebody at NRI mentioned, I like acronyms too. They help me remember. Some don't like them, some do. If they help you, what is my intention when you open your mouth? Is it to connect or correct? And this bottom piece on the slide, some people, when they learn NVC, view it as a success formula. It is not really meant to be a success formula to be used on people, like some kind of a formula thing, because there is no guarantee that it's going to work. Some people say, oh, that doesn't work on my husband. That doesn't work on my sister. Our goal is not to use something on someone to manipulate them at all. Totally different energy around NVC. We're coming in empathy and compassion and intention to connect with genuine interest. We're really talking about trust. Huge, huge value of mine. It takes a lot to build back trust once it's been eroded. This is one of the beautiful facts of empathy too. Taking time to listen well to each other really builds trust. So now I'd like to direct you to page 2 in your folder, your handout number 2, and go over 4 basic values of NVC, which I will read to you. And then I'm going to invite you each to get out your green sheets after I'm done sharing these 4, as you can see on your handout, and write down your top professional values and your top personal values. So here they are. Before you start writing, number 1, all people share the same universal human needs and values. That doesn't mean our personalities are alike, but underneath, the values are universal for humans. Number 2, all of our actions, verbal and nonverbal, are attempts to meet needs. Number 3, I will focus on knowing my own feelings and needs first so I can better understand yours, and that means we put on our own O2 mask first before trying to assist others or listen to others. Pay attention to what you're feeling and needing first at the root of the tree before you try and listen well to someone else. And number 4, I will not get my needs met at your expense. Again, easier said than done, but we're stepping into learning these and trying them on. So on page 2, your handout, same handout, the 4 core values of NVC, I'd like you to take the next 3 to 5 minutes to write down those top personal and professional values that you have, and then we'll talk more. I'll ring the bell again. Okay, we're back together. And one key practice, once you see the green list and you think in terms of needs/values, it gets easier and easier. What am I needing in this moment? It's very different from saying, I need you to be different. What I need is trust, or what I need is space, or what I need is clarity. It gets easier and easier to name your values, and it will give you energy. I love this Rumi quote too, which is really what we're doing with NVC. Rumi says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. That is the field of empathy and connection, quality connection. Another acronym, wait, what am I thinking? Why am I talking? What need are you meeting or trying to meet by talking? My husband hasn't read the NVC book, but he often, I notice he's been saying, and what need are you meeting by talking right now? And you know what I want to say? Read the book, buddy. But it's a really good question. And he knows I love this work. So, and here's another one. What are they thinking? Why are they talking? So this is Not only self-empathy, but empathy for the other person. Wait and what? Anything anybody says or does, another repetition, is an attempt to meet a beautiful need they have. What they say is about them and their unmet needs. It's not about you or me. So you have a Q-tip in your folder, I'm thinking. And I'm thrilled to tell you that Q-tip is not just, well, it is for ears. It is for ears and belly buttons and babies and all kinds of things like that. But it stands in MVC for quit taking it personally. So that's why I put one in your folders. We put one in your folders. And somebody gave me a little giraffe dish up here. You probably can't see the giraffe up here, but I keep my Q-tips visible. Because I grew up in a family, we didn't know better. We took everything personally. We did. And I know that now as I look back. Here's another acronym, if you can bear with me. A tragic expression of an unmet need. And if somebody says, let's face it, you're self-centered and you don't have much of a work ethic, that would be hard to hear. I would call that a hard-to-hear message. For me, it would be. What is that speaker's unmet need? And I put some of the empathy guesses up here. Maybe that person is really longing for teamwork and mutual consideration, trust, support. When somebody says you don't have much of a work ethic, they're longing for something, cooperation maybe, trust. We don't know, we're not mind readers, but we are able to learn how to make empathy guesses, which will feel very good to the other person, even if they've just said something like this. We'll talk about that more. Patty and I talk about this all the time too. As we've learned NVC, we've gained an ability to pause and breathe and make a choice about what comes out of us next, whether it's a thought or a word. So we start with ourselves, as I've already said. Easy to start on the other person, blaming them. But in NVC, we recommend starting with yourself first. And Rosenberg would say one of the most important uses of NVC may be in self-compassion. Have you ever beat yourself up for anything? Have you ever been hard on yourself? Well, I have. So self-compassion really matters. Here is an earlier rendition of the NVC Tree of Life. And I made the root section of self-connection, self-empathy red, so we can be reminded of where to start. So when we put on our own oxygen mask first, we're asking ourselves, what am I feeling and what am I needing? Always connect your feeling to your need. Some people will just say, I'm ticked. Well, why? What need was not met? So remember to connect the feeling to the need so that you can get the connection for yourself before you open your mouth to express that to someone else. And this is the current rendition of the tree that I like to use, because if you look at the root of the tree, self-connection has two parts now. The part about just us, and then the humanizing part. And that takes us to our next exercise in just a second. It's called the double T. But first, I want to say a little bit more about Marshall Rosenberg. He did research, and he became a psychologist. He got out of Detroit eventually and recovered from all the bullying and the poor treatment he received and did something creative with his life. And he studied the language that we've been educated to use in our culture. He studied how we've been taught to think and communicate, and also the strategies that we've learned to get others to do what we want them to do, to influence others and get what we need. These three factors play a large role, these three things he studied, in determining whether we're able to respond in the moment of pressure, the moment of impact, mindfully and compassionately, or if we tend to react. NVC is a language skill, a way of creating connection that is based on self-awareness and choice. There's no should. You shouldn't do NVC. Please don't should on yourself as you listen to this workshop today. This is a choice. This is why I'm inviting you to try it on and see if it makes a difference for you. I think I've already covered this. NVC is not meant to be some kind of formula that you use on people. It's a way to create connection using skills, language skills. I'm spending time on Marshall Rosenberg here because he uses animal symbols to teach in a fun way. And I think, I wonder if adult learners are going to enjoy animal symbols. I could see kids getting into it and younger students getting into it, but then I thought about how it stuck with me. I was an adult. I was 50 years old when I learned NVC or heard about it. So I'm going to continue with the animal symbols here today too, because I hope they'll help you remember. Rosenberg had these two questions. So what gets us off track? Most of us do fine when things are going well. We don't just automatically get rude when things are going fine. We don't criticize people when things are going well. So what is it that gets us off track? And second question he asked is, and how come some people can stay connected to each other and seem to be able to not get ugly or mean or rude or insulting under pressure? What gets us off track? We're back to the language. It's a very subtle thing. We've learned that telling people what's wrong with them is the way to get things to change. He calls that the language of jackal. He picked that animal because it is, a jackal is very wary, beautiful animal, but very wary and tends to keep a distance. The language of jackal comes from the head and not so much from the heart. It labels, it criticizes, it diagnoses, and he called it a life-alienating language. And you see what I mean. What a beautiful animal. Jackal intentions or habits, haven't we all been here? As I said yesterday in a community ed thing at the deck, an NVC presentation at the deck, I'm a recovering jackal. I know I am. That's why we teach what we need to learn, right? So that's what I'm doing here, connecting with NVC. But you can read these. I don't need to read them to you. We all probably can relate to moments when we have really wanted to be right, knew we were right. We wanted to correct somebody. We blamed somebody, et cetera, et cetera. Another chart, another way to look at it, communication that creates conflict, judging, evaluating, labeling, diagnosing, denying responsibility. Not my fault. If you were different, this never would have happened. So taking responsibility for our part without beating ourselves up. Rosenberg says criticism and coercion or making demands on people are two of the biggest things that make giving for most people impossible. When you're being criticized, it's hard to keep your balance. And when somebody's making a demand. Our daughter used to say, "No, Mom, you're not the boss of me." When I would make a demand on her as she was growing up. I didn't know NVC then, you know. I was a parent and I was in charge and she was going to do it my way. So Rosenberg asked, why do jackal speakers talk this way? They think that they understand better what's going on. And I really related to this because if I knew a different way to connect before I learned NVC, I would have been using it. I didn't know another way. So I used the jackal language I had learned. So jackal speakers aren't trying to be jerks. They're just trying to understand what's going on and using the language that they're familiar with. Here's some language that some have called the bullies of the language world. You have to, you should, you ought to know better. I'd better do this or else. Again, the point is we don't want to blame ourselves and we don't want to blame anyone else either. We want to connect and sort and brainstorm. So the second question that Rosenberg asked is, how come some people can stay connected, even when they're being slighted or yelled at or insulted? They don't seem to lose their ability to give respect and love under pressure. Well, how is it? And I love the way he puts this, he says, well, they speak a different language. They speak a life-serving language called giraffe. again, his animal symbol for connection and empathy. Giraffe is the language of power with, whereas jackal is the language of power over and more of a control. Giraffe intentions to connect with self and others, create trust, more of a win-win, equal power, mutual respect, etc., etc. Giraffe is the language of the heart, and I don't know about you, I spent a lot of time being nice in my earlier life, and I often felt I got walked on because I didn't have skills. That's why I swung over and got really nasty, because I thought, well, maybe they'll listen to me if I get really nasty. Well, the too nasty was all jackal. So you realize that as a giraffe speaker, that doesn't make you a doormat. You have skills. You can shape and reframe a conversation using feelings and needs and requests. And I'll say one last thing about giraffedom. Giraffes were chosen for this, Rosenberg says, because the giraffe has the largest heart of any land mammal, 28-pound heart. So we want to move from the head to the heart. And I don't remember who said this quote, but somebody, I don't remember their name now, said the longest distance I've ever traveled is the 18 inches from my head to my heart in sorting from thoughts to feelings. Rosenberg says giraffe is a very simple language, and when I was learning NVC, all this information, I thought I need simple. And maybe you feel that way today too. This is a lot of information you're seeing in quick order. All people are really saying is please or thank you. Please understand me and my needs, or thank you for getting me. The difficult part is how jackal speakers say their please, because they don't know NVC yet. They don't know giraffe language, so it sounds like these comments here. No, I won't, and you can't make me. It hurts me when you say that. How rude. You make me feel blah, 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 blah. The you make me feel comment. I don't know how many times I've said that, but now I realize it was definitely jackal because I did not know I did not know giraffe language then. So a giraffe speaker makes these 4 things clear so other people can hear their pleas. What happened is the observation with no criticism or judgment in it, just the facts, and then the feelings, and then the needs, and then making a request. So those are the 4 basic things that a giraffe would say. And some of our next handouts talk about what that language sounds like. So we're learning from the NVC Tree of Life model, which you've already seen. And we are now looking at handout page number 3, the basic NVC model, which you can read for yourself. I will not read that to you. You can just take a look at it. Nice to have the reference point and a definition of observations, feelings, needs, requests, and self-empathy at the bottom. As I've already said, we call them key distinctions in NVC. We want an observation versus an evaluation or a criticism. We want a feeling versus a thought, a need versus a strategy. And by that I mean, if I said, I need trust versus I need you to be blah, 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 blah. That's a strategy. I need you to be is not a need. That's a thought. That's a strategy. So we would say, you know, when I think about this work situation is the observation, and I heard you say blah, 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 I noticed I was really feeling frustrated and concerned because I really need support and teamwork in this job. Would you be willing to meet me for coffee tomorrow at 1 and talk this situation and brainstorm this with me? That's what OFNR would sound like. I've just made it up here. But you can see the distinctions there. And I will not read all of this. This is more of same, just to give you the feeling of the 2 paradigms. The power over or power under jackal paradigm, blaming, evaluating, wants to be right, denying choice, and the power with giraffe paradigm, which is all of those things you can read. Empathy, empathy, empathy with self and others, connection. Now I'm going to read a couple of these, and I'd like you as an audience to call out which one you think it is. You don't give a darn about this. Jackal or giraffe? I feel like you're always manipulating me, right? You're a control freak. Why don't you just admit it? Pure jackal, right? I'm really sad you're leaving. Giraffe. The problem with you is you always think you're right. Jackal. So you can read these other ones too, but you can see how, I mean, that's how we've learned to talk. How do you say the true thing and get across what you really need to say? So we're back to self-awareness and the tone. Is it giraffe or jackal? What language am I using? And again, we're back to choosing. Pause and choose. 100% responsibility for our own feelings versus you make me feel so blah. Rosenberg taught me that the reason I feel a certain way is because I have a need that's not met. The person who says that thing to me and I want to say, you make me feel so bad, they're just the stimulus. The real need, the real reason I feel the way I do is because of my needs and values. And that was a huge shift for me. So here we are with the 3 ways to create connection again. We've covered all this. We listen to ourselves, we listen to others, and we speak our truth in giraffe mode if possible. Here's another way to look at it. 3 top choices and the OFNR. So it's 3 plus 4 skills. The 3 modes and the 4 components. Observation, feeling, needs, and requests. And those are just coupled together in different ways, depending on which arm of the tree you're choosing to use in the moment. Number 1, be gentle with yourself. I like the tree, can you tell? I have a lot of tree in here. And here, you notice at the root, we have 2 parts on the bottom of the tree, self-empathy for self and humanizing, wondering what the other person is really feeling. And now on page 4, I'm going to go ahead and take time to do the double T because it is such a huge revelation in terms of sorting in the moment of impact. When you're really ticked, even if you're sitting in a restaurant and you have a napkin and a pen, write 2 T's down on your napkin like we're going to do on this sheet of paper here and sort what your feelings and needs are, but start with yourself. And then go over and humanize on the second T on the bottom of the page and ask yourself, I wonder what they were feeling and needing when they said that rude thing to me or took that action that I hated that made me so mad. So let's take 5 or 6 minutes to do that, and then I'll call you back. I hope you're enjoying the practice of the double T. And I would invite Patty up to tell us another application story from her life.
Yeah, hello. So I'm always so excited to share a success story because learning NVC can take a little bit of practice. And as a matter of fact, my first class with Ann was up in Ely, a full day. And the feelings and needs page, I looked at it and it was like deer in the headlights. I thought, oh, wow, there's a lot of words here. What am I needing? What am I feeling? And so, it is a practice. It's like when you go weight building and stuff like that, you have to move your arms and your muscles in certain ways to develop them. And it's the same with learning NVC. So I had a situation where I learned about how I approach my projects versus how someone else might approach a project. And we were at opposite ends of the spectrum. I have a need for thoroughness, so it's going to take me a longer time to get to the completed project. And the other person had a need for efficiency. Okay? Neither one is right or wrong. Okay? but how the message is communicated can be devastating. So what happened for me in the moment when my way of doing something, process, was being challenged, I was able to say, oh my gosh, I have a high need for thoroughness. I have never said that before in my entire life. And I thought, oh, I'm getting it, okay? This was after 2 years of study. But on the other hand, after the conversation, I was able to think, oh, well, what would those needs of that person be? And it would be efficiency. And so neither one is right or wrong. But the teachable moment for me was that aha awareness that my brain approaches things differently than this other individual. And it was a real, it made me feel free. It made me feel like I'm okay in how I do my things. It's the way I am, and it values thoroughness. So on the other hand, when we're looking at these circumstances and you go back and you kind of dissect them, dial into the need of the moment and kind of think back, because it'll help you develop your muscle in identifying your needs. But that was like a big victory for me, because I was able to say it in the moment instead of walk away and go, and feel like I was a total failure as a human being. So that's my encouragement.
Thank you, and thank you, Patty. And you notice also how she didn't make an enemy out of the other person. The other person just had a need for efficiency. So it changes the connection aspect of it. So now we're going to move very quickly. Thank you for your patience with that. I'm inviting you now to do something that Rosenberg called enjoying the jackal show. Let's say you get really ticked and you got to get it out like I did with the doc. And you don't want to say it to the person, but you need to get it out somehow, either in a journal or you take a walk, but you spew, okay? You vent. He called that the jackal show. Better to vent it out, not to the other person, but to an empathy buddy or alone on a walk or in your journal or some way, swimming, exercising, something that meets your need. He says we can use our jackal messages as messengers. Don't shoot the messenger. They're telling you something that really matters to you when you're really ticked. So pay attention to your feelings and your needs. And this is a whole scenario about what a doctor said to a woman who was caring for her ailing mother. And I am going to move through this very quickly. The doctor said this: I can't believe your mother took that fall a year ago and you never bothered to verify. You notice how I put in red the jackal. And if she'd broken any bones, you never bothered to verify that. You should have just taken her down to the States for an x-ray. It would have been easy and she would have been fine today. You shouldn't just let things slide like that. Now she's never going to walk again. How about some blame for the daughter of the woman who took the fall? Okay? Well, that was pretty hard to hear for that woman. And here's a chart. We gave you a chart in your packets, but I don't know that we're going to take time to fill out that whole chart. But I want to show you how it's done, because it's as valuable, in my opinion, as the double T. 3 columns on a piece of paper. On the left, let her rip. What an insensitive jerk that guy is. He's totally rude. He has no right to tell me that. I'm a hardworking daughter, whatever it is. And then on your chart, unpack each comment. He's an insensitive jerk. When I have that jackal message, I feel upset and vulnerable. Do you notice you're getting at your own feelings? I feel upset and vulnerable. What is my unmet need? Understanding and compassion. Does that make sense, how this chart unpacks? This is the jackal show chart. Enjoying your jackal show. Because if you do not process it and you stuff it, then it kind of circulates subtly around and will come out sideways some other way, either in your health or with and this is my experience now. I'm not saying I'm always right on this, I'm just saying this is what I've learned. It'll come out in some kind of a physical malady for me, when I stuff this stuff, or it'll come out sideways when I'm trying to talk to the person. It kind of gets stuck. So we are processing this, the jackal show on the left, the vent, pure jackal on the left. Let her rip. Then translate that into your feelings when you think that thought, and then what are your unmet needs? What are you needing in this situation? And then I say, and don't stay stuck in the yuck. Get to your need and then do something with the need. Come up with a request for yourself to meet that need. I hope that makes sense. So there's a process. We're moving through. We're not staying stuck, as Patty was saying, feeling like a victim and doing a lot of complaining to other people. Not that that's bad either. I'm just saying it's a much healthier process, in my experience, to have some skills to move through the yuck without staying stuck on it. So page 5 is that for you, but we're not going to do that now just because of time. So skill choice number 2 in NVC is self-expression, speaking your truth, using the 4 components. Compassionate honesty, saying the hard thing. And I put this quote in here because I thought of all the times I didn't say what was really going on for me because I told myself I couldn't speak the truth because it would hurt the other person. So I stuffed it and allowed it to hurt me. Now I know NVC, so I can express some of these things. It's a much healthier way to go. Now there's always the temptation to hint. What need is met when somebody just hints? Anybody? Why do we hint? Because we don't want to have conflict. We're afraid of what they'll say or do or think. We don't want to make a bigger mess. But NVC is a way to say what's really up for you, to really speak your truth with compassion and honesty. And do they have to like it? Everybody shake your head no. No. They don't have to like it, but at least we are speaking with mutual respect. And our intention is to connect, not to make them wrong. There's no guarantee that they're going to like it. But we're being honest with ourselves and compassionately honest. And I just like this. You can read it. I just like it. I like the graphic. Is it true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, kind? So page 6 in your handout is about a situation of your own, and hopefully you kind of already have one picked out. And I would love for you to take a look at that. And we won't take 5 minutes. By now you probably have an idea of how you would like to say in OFNR, observation, feeling, need, request, what you would like to, what you could say. So take a look at page 6 in your handout packet, and let's just take 3 minutes to write those things down. I don't know if we'll have time to discuss it with a partner. So just take 3 minutes for yourself now and write down how you would craft your OFNR using the 4 components.
Okay. All right, I think we can move on to the next part here. I have a real deal classroom experience I'd like to share with you. As you all know, I go around and give scholarship presentations. I was at a high school, it was seniors, and we were in the cafeteria, which was kind of a noisy place anyway. But here I am, and I am so passionate about wanting students to get this money. And so I'm up there talking away, and I've got my PowerPoint and so on and so forth. And then, there's all this shoving, and people are on their phones, and they're talking amongst each other. And I was just getting more flustered, and I thought, what do I do? The teacher's not saying anything. And all of a sudden, I stopped, and I said, okay, I have a question. Are you guys bored? They looked at me. And I said, well, if you are, you can leave right now. Because I am having trouble communicating to you. I can't stay focused on my message when I see all this activity out here, and I really, really want you to hear this message, because you could graduate from college debt-free. And I said, I'm having trouble giving my presentation, and I would really love to have your attention. I've never said anything like that before in my life. And I was a quaking, shaking bag of insecurity. But guess what? Nobody left. They stopped their bad behavior. Oh, that's a judgment. and I could finish the presentation. And it made me happy because my heart was breaking. I thought, geez, this is important information. So just a little story. So it's called Screaming Giraffe. And I didn't know that because I shared that in one of our practice groups. And I thought, oh, I did it right. But I was not necessarily yelling, but it was speaking from the heart.
And I will just say 1 minute about screaming and giraffe. Do you know how odd it feels if somebody says something intensely and then we were to say, oh, really? Oh, are you feeling upset because you needed more support? The intensity levels don't match. So screaming in giraffe is meeting the moment with the same level of intense resonance that is happening in the moment. And Patty was seeing these, and she said, are you bored? Well, that has some intensity to it, and they could hear that. So, and she gave them, are you bored? That's an empathic question. Are you feeling bored? Without using the word feeling. So it was a nice mix of empathy, guessing, and speaking her truth. The truth is, I'm having trouble focusing. I want you guys to get this money. Do you see how it's genuine, it's to the point, it's intense. It's not loud screaming, but it's intense, intentional communication. So, yep.
Last exercise is, those of you who have numbered cards, you have to come up here. You're part of the show this morning. Number 1 over here, going down. I love this exercise. It's really fun.
We're going to be talking about what empathy is and what empathy is not. And this exercise is about 11 empathy imposters. Now, we know empathy is a respectful understanding of what other people are experiencing. We want to guess their feelings and needs. Okay. And so here is the list of them up here. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I would like to say, I'm guessing we've all done all 11 of these. Number 11 I got from Brene Brown. But all 11 of these are very common language patterns. And as Tom Bond and Marsha Rosenberg would say, they're not bad or wrong. All we're saying is they're not empathy. And if your goal is the resonance and the connection power of empathy, then we want to be aware of what these 11 are. So I'm going to say a basic thing, like is on your sheet here. I'm going to say, sometimes I just hate my job. My boss is such a control freak. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Oh, yeah. Oh, I could. Oh, no. So I'd like each empathy imposter there in order here, from 1 to 11, and I'd like you to make up, according to the card you have, an empathy imposter response to, sometimes I just hate my job. My boss is such a control freak, I'm not sure what I'm going to do even.
I think you should punch him in the face.
Thank you very much. Empathy imposter number 1, giving advice, how easy it is to do. Thank you. Number 2, I just hate my job sometimes. My boss is such a control freak. I just don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, honestly, I think you didn't have enough punishment in your childhood, and that's what's going on, so you just can't handle it now.
Thank you very much. Number 3, Sometimes I just hate my job. My boss is such a control freak. What am I going to do?
I know exactly how you feel. That reminds me of a time that happened to me at a job that I had, and let me tell you all about it.
Ooh, see, that's where I usually go. I totally relate to that one. Okay, number 4. Sometimes I just hate my job. My boss is such a darn control freak.
That sounds like a really toxic environment. I'm so sorry you have to experience that.
And do you see how beautiful that is? What's wrong with that? Nothing. It's just not empathy. No, it's beautiful. No, you guys are doing great. Have you seen this information before? No. Okay, next one. Sometimes I just hate my job. My boss is such a control freak.
Well, it's really bad now, but it can only get better from here.
And which one was that? Would you
Reassuring and consoling.
Yes. Number 6. Thank you.
Yes.
Number
5.
7.
5.
Oh,
Sorry,
I'm sorry. 5. Okay. Next one. Sometimes I just hate my job. My boss is such a darn control freak.
Whatever. Everyone hates their job.
Thank you. Sometimes I just hate my job. My boss is such a control freak.
That's not what he said. There's other ways of looking at that.
I need to talk to you. You don't know. I'm kidding. No. Great example. You guys are getting these. You see how easy it is to respond in any of these ways to my problem with a control freak boss. Okay? I do just hate my job, My boss is a control freak.
Why do you continue to work for him?
Good question. No. My boss is such a control freak. I hate my job. What am I going to do?
I've met your boss, and I don't like him either.
Oh, I don't like my job. My boss is a darn control freak. Ugh.
Quit feeling sorry for yourself.
You know my problem. I have a control freak boss. I don't like my job. What am I going to do?
At least you have a job.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. You get the difference between empathy. And before you all sit down, would anybody be willing to make an empathy guess to me using, could you guess what I'm feeling and what I'm needing? Just based on what you've heard today. Or anybody from the audience, too, either one. I mean, could we make an empathy guess about, I hate my job. I have a control freak boss. What do you think I'm feeling and needing? Yes, you can definitely say, I hear you. And if you want to go a little deeper, are you saying you're feeling, you could go deeper. I hear you is very powerful.
You might need some autonomy.
Yes, would you use the microphone?
You might need some autonomy.
Yes, thank you. Great need guess. Yes. What am I needing if my boss is a control freak and I don't like my job? Autonomy would be a big one. Any other need guesses? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Would you ask them, well, what is it they need? If they know NVC, I need a different boss. I need, I need him to be different or her to be different. You see, that's a strategy. That's not a value. That's not a need. I need support. I need mutual respect. Trust, yes, yes. It could be probably a lot of the things on your green sheet. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. You can just put your orange sheets right here.
Thank you. Well, we're looking at the time here, Anne, and it's a little bit after 2:15. I just want to thank you, Anne, for this wonderful session. I hope you found it valuable. I hope that you are able to look through the information in the packets and reread and think about your joyful moments, what needs are being met, and then those cranky conversations that seem to pop up out of nowhere, and how you can manage yourself, your needs and feelings, and put those on the table in a way that the person hears you. And if there's one thing that really helped me, anything anyone says or does is an attempt to fulfill their unmet needs. Bravo to that. If you think that, then it's easier for you to kind of dial into yourself and dial into the other person. And I'd like to mention that certificates of attendance will be emailed to you, to those of you who want CEUs, and the recording of these sessions will be available on our website as soon as we get those completed. We like to recycle. not because NRI was here, but in general, we like to recycle. And so put your name badge in the basket as you leave. And there are some extra cookies out there and some plastic bags, so please help yourself. And by the way, the bread is from Duluth Best Bread. If you want to take some slices home, please do, because I think I over-ordered. And then what we value most about you, the teachers, the counselors, school administrators, is your commitment to your students. You guys have a hard job. You're dealing with 50 million different personalities day in and day out. And the things that you work towards, inspiring your students, seeing their potential, encouraging them, makes a world of difference. So you are making a difference. I was a teacher, I know the grind, and so making a difference doesn't always feel that way every day, but trust me, you are. And we appreciate you encouraging students to apply for the Allworth Scholarship. Many of them don't think they're worthy of this scholarship, but keep nagging them. You have my permission to nag and help them get their application in and continue to promote those scholarships in general, and especially the Allworth. Oh my gosh, am I biased or what? But thanks for being here. Thanks for staying for the second half. I hope it was valuable. If you have any feedback for us, send us an email, okay? Safe travels home. Take the bread and the cookies, okay? Bye.